And I don't want to overreact, but I've been critical of Breeze the last couple of years. I love him. I know he's accurate. I know he's good at the line. I know he's a great leader. Yeah. But the game is changing, Peter, and I thought you could really see decline last night with Drew Brees.
Well, I would just say two things about this. Number one, I think that in the first, say, 3 drives, I thought that Breeze was fine and playing well and using Alvin Kamara optimally. Okay, but as the game went on, the loss of Michael Thomas really showed. And again, for those who want to pin all of this on the fact that Drew Brees is not throwing the ball downfield, I understand that. But he's got one of the best downfield threats in the recent history of the NFL, who's probably going to miss 3 weeks. And so I think you can't look at Brees in a vacuum. I think you have to look at him as part of a whole. And that hole right now has a pinhole in it. That balloon hole has a pinhole in it. And, if I am the Saints, you just have to hope this isn't a shootout with Aaron Rodgers this weekend. Because if it is, the Saints will lose.
I said this before. I didn't think Belichick-Cam would be ideal, but it's really fascinating. And I would make an argument that actually N'Keal Harry is a first-round pick that cannot be a bust. They need a weapon, and Cam's probably a better fit with him than he is Brady. And I gotta be honest with you. I don't think Brady could have gone to Seattle and gotten within one play of beating the Seahawks. Are you at all surprised that it's not just that Cam, it's working with no preseason, shared snaps? It's way better than I thought at this point, Peter.
Well, it's better than anybody thought it would be. In part, what you're saying, there was no preseason. There's no off-season program, which to me is a huge plus when you talk about how well they're playing on offense. And if you follow the Patriots, if you're a Patriots fan, even though they lost that game the other day, there was so much to be optimistic about and so much to be up about. And all I can say is that as I look at the AFC East right now, you got to love what you're seeing in Josh Allen. His performance under pressure, Pro Football Focus had a great stat. His quarterback rating under pressure, Josh Allen, is like 150 point something. And you look at that and you just say, wow, that was one of the things that people wondered about with Josh Allen. So you got to give him some credit. But as far as the Patriots go, I totally agree. Bill Belichick is proving, just like the old Bum Phillips thing, he can beat you with his and he can beat you with urine. He can win with a wide variety of players and a wide variety of schemes.
Are you shocked? And maybe it's a reflection on last year where Wentz was asked to carry the Eagles, and now perhaps he's trying too hard to carry the Eagles and doing too much. Are you at all surprised by how ineffective, inaccurate Carson Wentz is? We know Doug Peterson can coach. It's the same system.
Yes.
Are you surprised by what you're watching? I am.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. I thought he would play significantly better than what he's playing, Colin. And I think one of the issues right now is the inconsistency of the protection from an offensive line that is very much not only a work in progress, but beat up too. I mean, Lane Johnson, who might be the best at his position in football, clearly is not 100%. They didn't plan on having Jason Peters have to play tackle this year at his age. So that's another issue I see. But, I also think that one of the issues that they have is that this is a team that needed the offseason, that needed the chemistry between Carson Wentz and his receivers, didn't have it. And it's one of the things that when you look at the way Cam Newton played Sunday with all these new guys, you got to applaud that. And Carson Wentz just has not been able to make that same positive adjustment that Cam Newton has made in New England with guys who he didn't even know before.
You know, it's interesting. There's one or two things that I was told years and years ago from a general manager, a really good GM. He said, and I said, how do I figure out if a coach is working very early, 5 or 6 games in? He goes, the one of the two things I look for as a general manager. Do I get the same performance every week? Win or lose, the team looks. I mean, Belichick's team, they look the same. You get the same performance every week. Sometimes they lose, sometimes they win. He goes, are you seeing consistency of performance? He goes, the second thing is the really good coaches are good after half. A lot of guys can put down 20 plays. They got no second gear. And last year, Matt LaFleur, as a rookie head coach, I thought was really good on the script, and they were a bad second-half team. What's interesting, 2 weeks into this year, they're actually a better second-half team. And I think, okay, I'm now getting a lot of wins in 18 games, and now I'm getting a team that's good off script. Did we undervalue Matt LaFleur a little last year? I probably did.
No question about it. As a matter of fact, I called him my coach of the week in my column this week because, look, guy has now coached 20 games in the NFL. He's 16-4. That includes the playoffs. That includes 2 horrible one-sided losses to the 49ers. And I, like I'm sure a lot of people coming into this year, looked at those losses and said, the Packers are really good against just, 50-50 teams, teams that aren't very good. They're not really good against the excellent teams. And the 2 San Francisco games prove that, seem to prove that, in which they gave up 37 points each time. But I think what has happened this year is that you have Aaron Rodgers coming into this year, and I doubt he's ever going to say it, Colin, but you have Aaron Rodgers coming into this year saying basically, I will show Brian Gutekunst. I'll show him. And Brian Gutekunst said, good, that's fine. If I end up having to trade Jordan Love 2 or 3 years into this experiment, that's okay. We'll Jimmy Garoppolo our situation, and we'll be okay. But to me, Aaron Rodgers deserves a tremendous amount of credit for coming back without significant improvements in their receiving core and coming out and playing great early. And I think they lead the NFL in points scored. And so I look at this and I say, this head coach knows what he's doing, and this quarterback knows what he's doing too.
So, it's funny with Brady is I was talking to a former NFL coach this weekend, and he said, Tom in New England always had, Moss and Welker or Gronk and Edelman. He's like, he's got 3 legit tight ends now and 3 legit wide receiver and 2 good backs and a third back that can play. He said Brady may be struggling with too many gifts. New England was actually, for a complex offense, fairly simple. You'd have like 1 big star receiver, a slot guy, and a tight end. I think Brady's going to figure it out, but he's still not throwing to the tight ends. Is it possible? It's not just a new coach and a new system. Brady's got so many mouths to feed here. This is going to take a long time. This is an 8-10 week process to figure out.
There's no question about it. But unlike a lot of other places where when you have a lot of mouths to feed, the hungry ones get really ticked off, I don't think these guys are going to get ticked off if they're not getting the ball because it's Tom Brady. And all he's going to do is say to O.J. Howard, listen, if you're open, I'm throwing to you. He'll say that to Mike Evans. You saw him say that. You saw him do that with Evans the other day when he was wide open in the deep middle. I think the one guy who, even though he had an end zone drop the other day, I think the one guy who's going to emerge this year out of all of the receivers, out of all the famous ones, is an unfamous one, and that's Scotty Miller. The 2 days that I saw the Bucs in training camp, Scotty Miller was getting fed more than any wide receiver on that team. And Brady just really likes him. One of the reasons I think he likes him is he gets separation. Brady is not used to having receivers who get separation, but this is a 4-3-4 Smurfy guy who's really tough. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of Gary Clark with the old Washington team that he just was so smart a player, and he got separation, and that's what made him an excellent target for his quarterbacks. And I agree with you, Colin. I think this is definitely a work in progress because, hey, he never got in a huddle with any of these guys until 1 month before the first game.
Yeah.
So, you have to give him time, and you have to avoid